Good afternoon. This is Tanish Laverne Grant with blackinamerica.com. Super excited to bring to the platform Mr. Marcus A. Clark, director and executive producer of a brand new documentary on Netflix, Blood Brothers. It's coming out of Kenya Barris's production company. It's the first documentary to come out of Kenya Barris's company. So we're super excited about that as well. This documentary details the story, the special relationship between Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali. Welcome to the platform today, Marcus. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me today to talk about this important film. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it definitely is. You know, there have been so many documentaries, so many films about the lives of these two iconic men. What was it that inspired you to drive the narrative the way that you did, just in terms of, really taking it back, to Malcolm's early years, to Muhammad's early years, and even really detailing, the conflict, which I have never seen detailed in such a specific way, that falling out that they had, history kind of brushes that away. But
Yeah.
the way you guys dove into that was so elegant and so eloquent without leaving the viewer angry. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, there's so many films done about these men and so many books written about these men, kind of isolated, their legacies kind of separately. And I think one of the things that got me really excited about this film is there just isn't another documentary film. There hasn't been a lot of material exploring this friendship and really the core of what this bond of this relationship really was. What were the effects that Malcolm X had on Cassius Clay at the time, Muhammad Ali, and vice versa? What are the effects Muhammad Ali had on Malcolm X? And I think, when you look at this film, we're really laser focused on this 3-year window of time between 1962 and 1965. And, this small window is a really kind of how we have this potent relationship that really changes the trajectory of both of these men's lives and subsequently changes the trajectory of history. And so for me, it was really important to get to the core of the friendship, of the relationship, and try to answer some of these questions, like what did these two men see in each other? What was it that actually brought them together, that created this bond? And so a lot of the backstory presented in the film is to give a kind of a deeper understanding of who these men were when they were growing up, their upbringing, their foundation. What are the things they were seeing at a young age? The images that may have affected their lives and kind of their personalities. And, so much of Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali is really understanding what it means to be a Black man in America, growing up in this country in the 60s,
Yeah.
and dealing with oppression and dealing with, segregation and the ills kind of that they saw at that time. So I thought it was really important to show kind of the early influences that I think affected their characters.
What I thought was quite remarkable about the relationship between Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali is it's an intergenerational relationship. Malcolm is I think he was about 17 years older than
That's
Muhammad
right.
Ali. And I thought that was quite fascinating because, my parents had me young. My parents had me when they were only 18 years old, and so
Mhm.
there was that father figure that I believe too, that Malcolm X was able to provide for Muhammad Ali. What was it like, tapping into Ilyasa Shabazz and getting her to come on camera and talk about her father?
It was incredible. I mean, I think Ilyasa Shabazz, her interview, her contributions to the film is monumental, really. And the perspective that I think she brings to the table is really invaluable. I think she is obviously the blood of Malcolm X, and for that reason, she very much lives the legacy. This kind of work is what she does, and I think having her voice in the film. To not only represent Malcolm, but to even speak for him, at parts where she's reading from the autobiography, I think is a really a powerful kind of contribution and a way to tell the story and point out some of these moments in which, in Malcolm X's autobiography, he's speaking about Cassius Clay and the things that he sees in him, this contagious quality about him. There's
Yeah.
this bond is like this unity, and they have admiration towards each other. And I think Ilyasa does a really good job of bringing that message across, and also helps set up the story. This is very much a destiny story. these two men really believed in destiny. They believed in faith, but they really believed in destiny as well. And I think she represents that, you know, in a way that's really powerful and compelling. I also think that, you know, it's just important for me. I wanted to have this film be balanced, and have a balance between Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali and the families, and really get an authentic and kind of holistic picture at these men, and what this relationship meant to them. And I think Ilyasa helps embody that, and she helps provide some of the new information in the third act of the film, you know, in terms of how Ali reached out to X's family and to the daughters, and formed this relationship.
You pulled the question right out of my mouth.
Sorry, go ahead.
I swear this is the easiest interview ever. You like pulled the question right out of my mouth, because I was going to ask, was there anything about both men that you learned, you know, through speaking with Ilyasa?
Absolutely. In speaking with Ilyasa, and speaking with Maryam Ali and Hana Ali, you know, what started to come to the surface was that although Malcolm X is assassinated in 1965, the relationship, the bond, the lasting effects of this relationship never went away for Ali. It never went away from Muhammad Ali. And yes, after the assassination, he was expressing a lot of anger, and a lot of kind of discontent with how things ended. And I think over the years, what you'll see in the film is that anger actually started to change into regret, which kind of led him towards a certain kind of almost like a redemption journey, in a way, in which I learn, and I think the audience learns, that Ali reached out to Malcolm X's family, to the next of kin, you know, to Atala Shabazz, the eldest daughter, and to Ilyasa Shabazz, and formed this new relationship. And so that's part of the new information that the documentary reveals and puts forward kind of in that third act. And I think it's incredibly powerful and moving to see kind of these emotions and where they end up in Ali's life kind of later on. And, you know, understanding that these families are families, they're connected. You know, seeing Atala Shabazz at the funeral, you know, speaking about Ali and her father, you know, this relationship had lasted.
It moved me to tears. It moved me to tears. I lost my father earlier this year, back in January 21st.
I'm sorry to.
Thank you.
Sorry to deal with that.
And in 1965, my father was 10 years old. And as I was going through, you know, his journals, he spoke about the experience of Malcolm's death and how that impacted him, you know, as a young man. And so this documentary is quite fascinating, because what it does is it humanizes Malcolm X, you know, and it humanizes Muhammad Ali. You know, we see them, you know, on this big scale. We see the commercialism, you know, of both of these men. And the beauty of this documentary is that it humanizes these men. You know, so what was just the whole, I mean, the style of it, I think, is just so beautiful. The tapestry of it, you know, what was the decision, you know, just to open up with some of the shots? I don't want to give the documentary away. I'm not going to do it, but you know what I mean? It's just, you know, just the weaving in and out, you know, telling the story of Malcolm, you know, bringing it present day, telling the story of Muhammad Ali, you know, some of the moments, the photographs that you put in the documentary, you know, when Malcolm is coming home and he's at the airport and he's holding Ilyasa, and she speaks about that. Just the way everything was just weaved in and out, I just think was so remarkably done. You know, so just talk about the creative process of it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's, you know, there's a lot of challenges with this film. And the first one being that there's just so much material about both men, and there's so many documentaries that we've seen already. And so I looked at all of that material kind of through my research and planned on taking a creative direction that was different than what we've seen before. And in doing that, it's like, I want to show a different perspective on Malcolm X and a different perspective on Muhammad Ali. You know, for however long we've heard Malcolm X he's always painted as this angry Black man. You know, he's the most incendiary leader. We know his speeches, the ballad of the bullet, by any means necessary. These are things we've consumed over and over and over again. Yeah. But there's another side of Malcolm, right? Which is Malcolm X, the man, the compassionate man, the friend, the brother. And so, you know, the father,
you know, little
Absolutely.
girls. It's like you cannot,
Hmm.
again, for me, the beauty of this documentary is how both men, as iconic as they are, the way they've been commercialized, for consumption, for product,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, has you've humanized them in a very palpable and remarkable way, you know. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I will definitely, be advocating for this film. Hopefully, I'll get a chance to talk about it when I pitch it to Pix 11. That's what my next
Hmm.
goal is. You know,
Thank you.
getting Kenya Barris behind us, what was that like? What was the process? Did he come to you? Did you go to him? Like, I'm just curious.
Yeah. So Kenya Barris and Lightbox, the production company in LA, they bought the rights to the book Blood Brothers, written by Randy Roberts and Johnny Smith. And for about a year, they were, I guess, looking for a director. And at some point, my agent put me in touch with Erin Sampson, who was an exec at Kenya's team. And
Mm,
she told me about this project and that they had the rights to this book. And of course, I was extremely interested. I know a lot about Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali, or so I thought, but I didn't actually know that they were friends, and
oh,
not
well.
friends in this degree. You know what I mean? This depth. And so a good part of the process was like discovery, honestly, and like doing tons of research to find the moments in which I could put on the screen to show this relationship. And so the book was really foundational in terms of guiding where we were looking for archival material and for the moments that would underscore the relationship. And then, from that, Kenya really, in terms of working with me, really pushed me as a Black man, as a Black director, to really dig deep into how I can infuse some of my culture, some of my history into the film in a way that is organic and authentic and that really is already there. And so, my parents are Jamaican. I'm of Jamaican descent, and they actually named me after Marcus Garvey. And so, tapping into that and tapping into the challenge that Kenya was kind of presenting to me to get me to level up and to really push myself into this is really how a lot of the film started to kind of form, which is how we kind of worked in the influence of Marcus Garvey to Malcolm X's parents, to his mother and father who were part of the movement, and to kind of
I
his
love it.
underlying foundation. And so that led me to finding a way to kind of not only embed the message of Garvey within the film, but to kind of pay homage to him later on in the film, which is picking up the mantle that Malcolm was really kind of taking, which is uniting Black and brown people in America, in Africa, and in the Caribbean, and getting us to realize we're part of the same struggle. And so Kenya was really influential in really pushing me to dig deeper than I've ever had to go in terms of,
Mm.
infusing my kind of culture and my identity into, what the story already had.
Magnificent. I'm really excited
Thank you.
about this. I'm really hoping that, the younger generation will be able to tap in, as they say, and
Hmm.
really just let this film just wash over them a little bit, because
Yeah.
we are all here because of the legacy, of Malcolm X, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Muhammad
Hmm.
Ali, Marcus
Hmm.
Garvey. I think what rings most with me about, Garvey is that up, up, you mighty race. You can accomplish what you will, and so I just want to end this conversation by saying, thank you so much for taking time to speak with us today. I
Of
cannot wait
course.
to see what's coming down the pipeline for you. Is there anything else that you're working on that you can share with the audience right now?
Working on a couple things. I can't talk about them yet, but
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it, and I really appreciate you taking the time to reach out and talk to me about this film.
Oh, no worries. You guys, you have to tune into Blood Brothers. It comes out on Netflix tomorrow, right? September 2nd?
September 9th.
September 9th. Okay,
September
correction.
9th. Yep.
Blood Brothers. You have to see this. I'm going to call this an iconic documentary. It's going to be one for the culture. One for the culture. You guys have got to tune in. And again, thank you so much for watching. Tanisha Laverne Graham, blackinamerica.com.